Hello and a very warm welcome to Game On. I'm Neha Bhardwaj-Alter. In our special today, Ultimate Kho Kho League has reached its business end. We try to find out what makes this indigenous sports league successful. But before that, a quick recap of the first T20I between India and Afghanistan, and Rohit Sharma's return to T20I cricket after 14 months may not have gone as he imagined when at the crease. But the veteran of 149 matches in the shortest format capped his comeback by overseeing a 6-wicket win over Afghanistan in Mohali last night. Having opted to field, Rohit marshalled his men well as India kept Afghanistan to an under-par total of 158 for 5, which was overhauled for the loss of just 4 wickets thanks to the player of the match, Shivam Dube, who hit 60 not out from 40 balls. 5 of the Afghan batters got starts, but none made it to 50, with Akshar Patel, the star, taking 2 for 23 in 4 overs, backed by Mukesh with 2 for 33. Rohit was then run out for a duck when he called for a sharp single, only to see his batting partner at the non-striker's end, Shubman Gill, caught ball watching, which left the Team India skipper extremely furious. Gill looked for his 23 of 12 balls before he was stumped, so he looked good for that 23 that he scored, but he was stumped in the 4th over, after which Tilak Verma took some time to settle himself. The good thing for India was that they had Dube in solid form, along with Jitesh Sharma, who used a promotion to number 5 to once again impress with his striking abilities. Dube smacked 5 fours and 2 sixes in his second T20I 50, while wicketkeeper Jitesh made 31 of 20 balls. Rinku Singh, then he continued his impressive T20I form with an unbeaten 16 of just 9 balls, which took his career batting average to 16.50 and his strike rate past 180. India won in the 18th over to claim their 5th win over Afghanistan in T20Is. Now, such was Mumbai all-rounder Shivam Dube's impressive contribution with bat and ball in last night's victory in Mohali that once again the question is being asked whether he can be an alternative to Hardik Pandya. In his 19th T20I match since he made his debut in 2019, the 30-year-old took a vital wicket in the match. He hit a stroke-filled 50 to be named player of the match, which has left people wondering whether Dube can emerge as a much-needed seam bowling all-rounder in white ball cricket for India. Given the ball by Rohit Sharma, Dube picked up the wicket of Afghanistan skipper Ibrahim Zadran while conceding just 9 runs in 2 overs, and then finished India's chase of 159 with a powerful knock of 60 from 40 balls, which took his T20I batting average to 35 at a strike rate of 139. That wicket was only Dube's 7th in T20Is, but he's also been underutilized as a bowler when playing for India. In his 19 T20Is, only once has Dube bowled 4 overs, with as many as 6 wickets, seeing him used for just 1 over and 6 when he has been used for 2 overs. A career bowling average of 9.49 shows why he's not often won his captain's faith, but given how injury-prone Pandya is and the lack of pace bowling all-rounders in India, it could be that sustained success with the ball and bat that could see Dube being added or him adding more to his 19 T20I caps. Okay, moving on now. India is home to many indigenous sports, from Malakham to Kalaripayattu to Kabaddi to Kho Kho. These games have been integral to India's heritage, and while some games have been picked up internationally, the others continue to be popular in various parts of India. Today, we talk about the fast-paced game of Kho Kho, which is getting more popular with Ultimate Kho Kho, an Indian franchise-based league in its 2nd season. The league started in 2022 and it's quickly become a big success with a viewership of 164 million across media platforms. It is one of the top 3 non-cricketing leagues in India, which secured Series A funding from UK-based BNP Group and became the first league in India to secure private equity investment. So what has gone behind creating this successful non-cricket league? We have the CEO and League Commissioner, Mr. Tenzing Neogi. He joins us on the show. We also have Mr. PKSV Sagar. He is the CEO of GMR League Games. Both gentlemen know more than a thing or two about how to create non-cricket sports league that can be successful. Gentlemen, thank you so much for taking the time out to talk to us. Welcome to the show. Commiserations, Mr. Sagar, for Telugu Yodhas. They fought well, but in the end, it wasn't to be. Let me start with Mr. Niyogi then, sir. Take us back to how this idea originated and how you zeroed in on Kho Kho.
Well, this actually started way back in 2018. We chanced upon the sport of Kho Kho in a city called Ichilkaranji in Maharashtra. And trust you me, that was one experience where you can get to see about 1.5 lakh plus people surrounding a clay court and watching, two local district teams play Kho Kho. When I saw that, I just realized that this could be a spectacle and sport if produced well, because of a couple of reasons. One is the fact that Kho Kho has had an absolute deep-rooted culture in India, right? We've all known that. Secondly, and more importantly, is that a fun fact is Kho Kho has been played more by women than men over the years, right? So that immediately brings a new product out there in the market with a PG bifurcation, which is almost 50% basis of men and women. So I think that was a very, very big plus point for all of us to sort of understand that, okay, we could build something very big here, and which could appeal to the larger spectrum of brands and broadcasters. But truth be told, the speed of play, this is the fastest sport that India is witnessing currently on ground and on air. And the sheer population at the bottom of the pyramid of Kho Kho playing athletes excited us to sort of understand that maybe there was a way to success here and build something at the pinnacle of the pyramid, a league which is governed by transparency, and then we basically move ahead and bring in the right stakeholders, like all the 6 franchise owners or a great broadcasters. We just thought that would be a great way to sort of move ahead. And yeah, I think one thing led to the other. We got Amit Burman on board as a pre-Series A funding, and here we are in season 2 right now.
Okay, we're going to talk about season 2 specifically and whether you see any changes from season 1. But Mr. Sagar, GMR has already been involved in cricket franchise. How difficult was it to be able to say, you know what, this is an indigenous sport, but this might turn out to be successful. We are going to invest in it. What was that process like?
To be honestly, and thank you for having me on the show, Meha. I mean, it's very nice. So what happened exactly was, the moment cricket set the whole trend when IPL started way back in 2008, and I suppose this franchisee model started developing.
Yeah.
Right. And then what happened? Kabaddi took the sort of the first plunge from a sort of an indigenous sport, which sport got lost in transition over the couple of generations that moved on. And so Kabaddi, once it set the trend, then when Kho Kho came out with this announcement, and let me be honest, all of us of that generation would have played Kho Kho Kabaddis in one way or the other. So when this option came up, at GMR Sports, our intent is not, while we build around our cricket fulcrum, it's to develop indigenous sports which have got lost in transition. And that's how when Tenzing and his team came up with this offer, we were the first one to jump into it and said, here is an opportunity to bring a sport lost, and let's see how we can recreate this in the present era.
But Mr. Niyogi, it couldn't have been easy. It must have been difficult, given this is a non-cricket league. And you know how I've seen that with my programming, I'll be honest with you. When we're talking about cricket programming, it's so much easier to convince everybody here in the newsroom, as well as probably try to get sponsors for a show if it's a cricket show. So how difficult was that, convincing everybody, starting the league and having this idea in your head? I know Kabaddi, PKL was successful, but to say, you know what, there's another league that I can make successful, which is Kho Kho.
It's not been easy, as you rightly said. It is difficult in a country which is governed by cricket. But I think, what is interesting here to see that I believe that there'll be about 4 to 5 leagues which will eventually sustain in the next a decade or two. And they will be governed by a couple of things. One is a critical financial model which is sustainable over a 2-decade period. A sport which is basically attracting the 8 to 15-year-olds right now, which eventually makes in another decade's time they basically become super fans and they have their own disposable income. So, and of course the playing population. So I think all of this put together, when I went to Mr. Amit Burman in 2018, he was convinced in the word go. Let me just be honest about that. But also the fact that franchisees like GMR and Adani and the government of Odisha here, K3, Puneet Balan, KLO Sports, all these people essentially believed in the vision that we were putting across, right? We always wanted this to be a legacy project. Kho Kho as a sport has always had its roots, but what is important is to put a great production value behind it. And I'm sure you'll understand that, Meha, that when you produce it well, any sporting league is largely targeting the TV audience because it's already got its stagnant audience and captive audience on ground, which is either the athletes or the fans and the families.
Sure.
So putting all of that together and getting a broadcaster and putting a great business model, I think was the key for us, because everybody then started believing that the business model can eventually be commercialized over a period of 5 to 10 years to begin with, and then move on to the next decade. So yeah, it's been a challenge, no doubt about it, but it's been a happy headache, as I call it, right? I call Ultimate Kho Kho the ice cream melter. The product is so enthralling, it's so gripping, it's so sticky on air that you take a scoop of ice cream and before you put it in your mouth, it's going to melt because you're not going to get that time. You blink and you miss. That's the kind of format that we're looking at. And I think that was one of the key hot sellers to all our stakeholders. I'm sure Mr. Sagar here would agree to that, but largely everybody has agreed to that. When you see it on ground, it is an absolute stellar game. Absolutely. It's fantastic.
Okay, so a word of advice to everybody who's going to watch Ultimate Kho Kho in Season 3, just don't sit with an ice cream or take a tub if you have to, not a cone. But Mr. Sagar, the challenges as a team owner, what has that been like for you?
You see, I mean, while Tenzing has laid out the major challenges, I don't like to compare everything with cricket.
Sure.
You see, even cricket had its, its issues to start with. No IPL team in principle really made money in the first 10 years. I mean, today we are talking in retrospective. Today, seeing the media rights being sold for 48,000 crores, we think that everything is hunky-dory. So, but everything started at some point where franchisees had their pains. Now, the beauty about a sport like Kho Kho, one, the way Tenzing and his team has set it up, it's played in one city. It's played over 3 weeks. The budgets are pretty containable. So costs are under control. I fully agree, Meha. Sponsorship is, of course, an issue given the cricket on the background. But if you can really play up this game upfront, I mean, the way the league is doing, and bring that enthralling factor between the audience on television or on the ground, I'm sure the franchises are willing to take through the pains for a couple of years, because we can see this model is going to work going forward.
Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to continue this conversation with Mr. Sagar and Mr. Neogi. We're going to slip into a short break. When we come back, continue this fascinating conversation about the world of Ultimate Kho Kho.
Ram's Ayodhya rebuilt. Ram Lala's Pran Pratishtha. Countdown to January 22nd. Dateline Ayodhya. Catch the mega coverage only on News 9 Live.
Welcome back. We were talking about the Ultimate Kho Kho League. It's in season 2. It's been doing well. First season was successful. How's the second season been? I've got the CEO and the Commissioner, Mr. Tenzing Neogi. He's joining us here. We've also got one of the team owners here, Mr. Sagar. And we've been talking about what it takes to make a successful sports league. What does it take to build a successful sports league? Let's continue that conversation. Mr. Neogi, I've also got to ask you about the growth of the sport itself, because given that this is an indigenous sport, you're not going to get international players in here. How do you firstly grow the sport within the country? Because right now it's being played in pockets. You've got the rules that you said you've changed the rules, tweaked the rules to make it interesting, make it more viewer friendly. But where do you get more and more people so that you have enough pool, a big enough pool to create the standard as well as increase the popularity at the grassroots level?
Well, that's an interesting piece. So to give you a perspective, there are close to about 24 states which are actually playing Kho Kho. It is one of the biggest sporting spectacle on the Khelo India platform. And it is participated by both men and women, boys and girls. So from a playing population standpoint, it's massive. It's 25 lakh plus athletes who are playing Kho Kho right now. This includes all the junior and the sub-junior and the senior athletes. So from one perspective, what I believe is that whenever you're building up any sports league, be it any discipline, I think the first thing that the promoters and the investors look into is the fact that is there constant talent churning, and is there constant funneling of players which can come up from club level to zonal level to national level and then eventually hit the pinnacle of a professional sports league. So I think that bit is checked. The other side of the story is essentially, as you rightly said, the grassroots bit of it. So we have acquired the rights for 20 years for these three buckets: the men's league, the women's league, and the grassroots league. So that's a very interesting combination, right, put together. We have begun with Ultimate Kho Kho Men's League. You'll be soon hearing something about Ultimate Kho Kho Women's League. That's in the making right now. From a grassroots standpoint, what we've done is, while we've got the rights, we've actually given those rights, sublet those rights to all our franchisees, who can then start building independent properties under the Ultimate Kho Kho banner and their regular franchise brand name logo in their respective catchment area. And now what that does is essentially that activates and mobilizes the school contact programs, all the clubs, because Kho Kho enjoys a huge club culture, right, across India. So once you start doing that, the schools get together, the boys and girls get together, and they start aspiring to play in Ultimate Kho Kho, eventually at the men's league, and then going forward, of course, at the women's league as well. But all of this is only possible once the product on air is sticky enough for people to sort of sit around. If you're browsing through a channel, then the average retention should be over about 5 to 6 minutes for a 1-hour appointment viewing sport. I think that is one of the larger battles that we sort of arrested last year, where our average retention was close to about 7 minutes out of a 28-minute match play. So that effectively means that 25% of our gameplay was actually being retained and watched by viewers across linear broadcast. So that is one side of the story. The broadcasting, the way we have broadcasted it with 18 cameras and usage of light spidey camera for the first time ever in Indian sports. The top aerial view is also a new view for the Indian audiences to sort of expose and absorb. And I think those are small things which is bringing in true value to the user experience, the audience experience. And once we keep improving on this on a regular basis, I think we will start garnering more audiences on air, which will start translating towards on-ground execution via all the 6 franchisees and the federation right now, who's working on multiple other geographies, mind you. So there are close to about 25 nations which are playing Kho Kho right now. So next year onwards, we do plan to get some overseas players. So there will be some Koreans, there will be some Iranians. Africa nations is playing that. So I'm really looking forward to that as well. But that will take some time. But Korea and Iran and SAARC nations will be included into season 3.
That'll be exciting to watch. Let's also talk about, sir, what has been the changes you've seen from season 1 to season 2 in terms of viewership. And I'm sure, you've got a team of researchers who are churning up the data to figure out, who are the people who are watching this, where is it most popular. Can you give us a sense of whether a sport like Kho Kho is getting popular, say, in metro cities, or is it still restricted to, rural areas and towns?
The tier 2, tier 3. No, that's an interesting question, Meha, because see, when you think about Kho Kho, you instantly go down to a childhood memory, a nostalgia trip, which is largely, Mati ka court and a couple of poles there, and that's what's happening, right? Dust flying all over. When you do the mud to mat transition, which is what we are doing here, right? The whole concept of India March Chalang is essentially sort of modernizing the sport by tweaking a bit of rules, as you rightly mentioned. But once you do that, what has happened last year is that we were looking at a larger penetration in tier 2, tier 3 cities. But to our surprise, tier 1 cities gave us amazing numbers. So, for example, our surprise market last year was Karnataka. Now, mind you, we're broadcasting this across 5 languages: Hindi, English, Tamil, Telugu, and Marathi. So Kannada was not a language which it was broadcasted on. However, Karnataka actually came across as the number 1 market. The number 2 market was Punjab. Number 3 was Bombay, which is an absolute surprise for me. So while there is a heartland love for the sport, which we all are aware of, what is happening is if there's a silver lining towards all the 4 metropolitan cities and the sub-metros, I think that has happened because of only one reason, and that is the TV production. The way we have captured the sport and its essence, the speed of play, I think it's second to none. And what is happening in season 2, because of all the social media numbers that are trickling in, we did it close to about 50 to 75 million views in 2 weeks, the first 2 weeks on social media. The new numbers are yet not coming in. But we are going to topple close to about 200, 250 plus million views by the time we end it tomorrow. But what is happening is there are 2 perspectives. One is the production, and the second is, I believe, the commentators are now at par with the pace of play. Because it's so fast, the sport, that last year they were taking some time to sort of comment a line. So they were making 6-word sentences. Today, I think they're making like 4-word sentences. But they're with the pace of play. So I think from a commentary standpoint and listening standpoint, people are appreciating more, and they're very close games. So in fact, yesterday night, we almost had a tie. But
so here's the thing. I'm sorry, I'll have to cut you short because I'm running out of time. I've got to wrap it up, and I want to put a question to Mr. Sagar as well. But yesterday I was out with my family at a restaurant here in Delhi, and they had the Ultimate Kho Kho, this league, the match on a big screen. And remember that there was an India-Afghanistan T20 on at the moment. So the smaller screens had that cricket match, whereas the big screen had Kho Kho. So I was like, oh, great. I'm going to be interviewing, gentlemen who are behind this. So that's great to see. Now, sir, lastly, quickly before I wrap it up, I know they've been asking me to just wrap it up. We're completely out of time. But stories of personal triumph, an Amazon delivery boy who's now playing there. There's a newspaper hawker who has found a little space of his own in this league. Tell me, what has been the most fascinating story for you as we wrap this up? Mr. Sagar?
You see, at least in this, for the first season, we learned the traits of how to go about setting up a team.
Right.
This year, what we did in this draft, which came up a month back, we went solely for youngsters and, probably unproven youngsters who can come up, and all these young boys from small towns. We went and our coaches went and studied their games. Mind you, they had not proven themselves on any national levels. We went around and young boys from probably middle class or below backgrounds doing very well, a lot of enthusiasm, fire in the belly. We went and selected them. And honestly, they have delivered on all counts. I mean, results are a different thing. One has to lose, one has to win. But it showed because the kind of enthusiasm the youngsters showed this time. And just to add, Meha, not to take your time, We have also started an academy in Meerut, where we do both Kabaddi and Kho Kho.
Okay.
And there are hundreds of these young boys coming in to join and take on this sport.
Okay, so hopefully we'll find hundreds of little girls also coming and joining you guys there. But thank you so much, gentlemen. And yeah, we're right at the business end, the finals there. So congratulations to both of you for another successful season, and all the best for season number 3, 4, 5, and as many as there can be. Okay, so there you have it. With that, completely out of time, so I've got to wrap this up. Goodbye. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this show.
Since the last 2 years, Khalistani terror groups are threatening Indian diplomats in Canada, US, UK and Australia. Investigations of these threats led us to the first ever abduction and killing of an Indian diplomat, Ravindra Matre, in UK's Birmingham.